Good evening. We're going to call to order the school board meeting, August 16, 2022. Member Almond has the invocation.
Thank you, Chairman. This is called A Prayer for Our Teachers. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I don't know the author, but it was shared by Teresa Bell. She's one of our paras in the district. Dear God, thank you for their amazing teachers and staff who have given their lives to serve our children as they prepare for the new year. Fill them with strength to lead, grace to guide, and hope to thrive in their individual roles. Bless them beyond measure for their willingness to pour into the next generation through education. Amen. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, God, indivisible.
Thank you.
Okay, let the record reflect that Member Almond, Member Calderon, Member Kraus, Member Pennick are present, Member Sanchez is absent, School Board Attorney, Superintendent, and Board Clerk are present. Member Board Clerk, do we have any acknowledgements? Superintendent, any agenda modifications?
Yes, the addendum for a good cause is marked on our electronic agenda by a green flag named addendum item.
And board members, any agenda modifications? Tonight, the roll call order is Member Almond.
No
Member
modifications.
Calderon,
Thank you.
Member Calderon,
No modifications, thank you.
Member Kraus,
No modifications.
and I have no modifications as well. So do I have a motion for approval of the agenda outline?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any further discussion? I forget this every time, I apologize. Any opposed, say aye. Motion carries. Superintendent, we have presentations and recognitions.
Yes, we will start with our Veteran of the Month. Ms. Thompson will begin.
Good evening. I am very, very proud to introduce the Seminole County Public Schools Veteran of the Month for the month of August, Airman First Class Daphne DeLoach Turner of the Seminole County Public Schools Department of Assessment and Accountability. Daphne DeLoach Turner joined the United States Air Force on October 7, 1987. After basic training, she attended Radio Communication Analysis Technical School at Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo, Texas. Upon graduating from technical school, she received a top secret clearance. She was assigned to the 6913 Electronic Security Squadron in Augsburg, Germany in 1988. As a member of this squadron, her responsibilities included receiving translated communications, analyzing data, reporting and disseminating intelligence information to the National Security Agency, or the NSA. She stayed with the 6913th ESSS until March 31st, 1991, when the squadron ended over 17 years of operations in Augsburg, Germany. Daphne was honorably discharged from the Air Force in 1991 and remained in Augsburg, working as a government contractor for the U.S. Army Intelligence Department. Upon leaving Germany, she moved to Washington, D.C. to work for the U.S. Department of Defense, and from 96 to 2000, she was a stay-at-home mom for her daughter Carly, her son Corbin. Daphne began her career in education with the Florida Department of Education in Tallahassee and the Assessment and Accountability Department, overseeing Florida standards assessments, post-secondary assessments, national and international assessments, along with assessment results, school grades, grad rates, Florida report cards, and student growth. Thankfully, she relocated to Central Florida and began working for the Seminole County Public Schools and the Assessment and Accountability Department in 2011. She is currently an administrator assisting elementary, middle, and high school test coordination with state and district assessments, as well as analyzing student assessment data for the district. Her highlights when working for SCPS: she was designated to work with 5 of our Title I schools, effectively using data to drive instruction. She worked on the implementation of over 500 standards course-based assessments. She manages and development develops our common benchmark assessments. She is known for her outstanding customer service and her support for our schools and families. With Daphne this evening is her husband, Brandon Turner, and many members of the assessment and accountability team. Congratulations, and thank you, Airman First Class Daphne Deloach Turner.
Good evening. Tonight we are recognizing the Odyssey of the Mind team at Indian Trails Middle School. Odyssey of the Mind is a creative problem-solving program involving students from kindergarten through college. Team members work together to solve a predefined long-term problem and present their solutions to the problem at a competition. They must also participate in the spontaneous portion of the competition by generating solutions to a problem they have not seen before. While the long-term problem's solution often takes many months to complete and involves various elements of theatrical performance, construction, and design, the spontaneous portion occurs on the day of the competition. Indian Trails Middle School has had many teams in the last several years. However, this team has gone farther than any other team. This team, comprised of 7 students and 2 coaches, earned their spot at the World Finals that was held at Iowa State University this past May. These 7 students began working on their problem in September of 21. They came in first place in the region and then again in the state of Florida, earning their spot at the World Finals. They worked tirelessly after school and on weekends to create 4 unique vehicles that will help them flee an escape room. The escape room created by the students was actually the main character's head. Through a humorous skit, the students performed their version of the escape room. A boy and 2 others find themselves in a strange place. They found vehicles that performed difficult tasks. As each vehicle performed the task, the historical character will come into the room. In the end, the main character wakes up in a history classroom, tying the entire story together. This team placed 3rd in the world, behind only Poland and Southern California. So tonight we celebrate this team: Liam Griffin, Alana Guthrie, Kendra Hewitt, William Curry, Owen Thomas, Liam Vorberg, and Jacob Young, along with their coaches, Danielle and Jason Young. Joining them tonight is their principal, Ms. Trish Harshafi. Oh, you're welcome. Tonight, I'm also excited to introduce the new principal of the Raging Mustangs at Markham Woods Middle School, Dr. Jason McDonald. Dr. McDonald is a Seminole County Public Schools alumnus, having attended Lawton Elementary, Jackson Heights Middle School, and graduated from Oviedo High School. He attended the Florida State University, Go Noles, where he studied social science education and later completed his doctorate in educational leadership at the University of Central Florida. He began his teaching career in the social studies department at Oviedo High School, where he taught AP Human Geography. Dr. McDonald has worked in administration for the past 8 years, serving as a school administration manager and assistant principal at Oviedo High School and as an assistant principal at South Seminole Academy. Joining him tonight is his wife, Lauren McDonald, his daughter, Caitlin McDonald, his son, Colin McDonald, his father and mother, Kevin and Kathy McDonald, his brother, Matt McDonald, brother, David McDonald, his nephew, Logan McDonald, and the leadership team at South Seminole Academy. Congratulations.
Good evening. It gives me great pleasure this evening to introduce our next person, the new assistant principal at Lake Howell High School, Ms. Amber Pearson. Amber is a Central Florida native who attended Seminole County Public Schools and graduated from Winter Springs High School. She attended the University of Central Florida. Go Knights, I have to throw that in there. Everybody says Florida State and Florida up here. She earned a bachelor's degree in social science education and a master's degree in educational leadership. For the past 10 years, she has served at South Seminole Academy as a social studies teacher, dean, and instructional coach. Amber has also served on numerous committees that support SCPS's mission to ensure that all students acquire the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to be productive citizens. Joining her tonight as they're walking up here to celebrate this achievement, Amber thanks her family, including her fiance, her parents, her sisters, her mentors, and colleagues, Dr. Mia Coleman, Miss Felicia Naidu, and Mr. Michael Howard, along with a host of family, friends, and past and current colleagues. Congratulations, Amber Pearson. I love looking out in the crowd. I love looking out in the crowd as everybody's waiting for them to smile. I see y'all faces like, are you smiling too? Everybody's smiling with them. It's kind of funny. Next, I'd like to introduce the new assistant principal for Lyman High School, Mr. Mark Hammock. Mark is a graduate from the University of Central Florida, go Knights again, where he earned a bachelor's and master's degree in sports and fitness. While earning his master's degree, he was part of the UCF football staff until 2014. He started his career with Seminole County Public Schools in the fall of 2014, working at Lake Howell High School. And after teaching at Lake Howell, he went to Seminole High School's 9th grade center as a school administration manager. During his time at the 9th grade center, he earned his specialist degree in ed leadership. Mr. Kamek served as the school administration manager for 3 years before earning this new role as an assistant principal at Lyman High School, overseeing ESE, world languages, PE, athletics, and ROTC. Joining him this evening is his wife, Amanda, his daughter, Olivia, and I see Mr. Hunter, the principal of Lyman High School, along with the team from the 9th grade center here to support him as well. Congratulations to Mr. Kamek. And our final high school introduction of new assistant principal at Winter Springs High School, Ms. Arica Sutton. Arica is a Central Florida native who has served in various capacities within SCPS as an English teacher, instructional coach, and a school administration manager prior to her current appointment. She earned a bachelor's degree in English education and her master's degree in educational leadership from the University of Central Florida. You see the pattern here? Taken over. She comes from a long lineage of educators and was taught that education is the greatest equalizer. That lesson became her passion as an educator to ensure that all students are provided with the equitable resources to succeed. Here to celebrate her achievement with Arica this evening are her parents, Ronald and Carol Sutton, her children, Terrence and Brielle Mooring, and her mentors and colleagues, Mr. Lance Abney, Linian Grace, along with a host of family, friends, past and current colleagues, and I saw Mr. Howard from Lake Howell High School, previous principal, as well as current principal and team from Winter Springs High School. Congratulations to Ms. Arica Sutton.
So good evening. I have the pleasure of introducing the new principal at Journeys Academy, Mick Showalter. Mick is beginning his 27th year in education this year. He has worked in Orange County as a teacher, dean, and assistant principal, and moved to Seminole County 3 years ago and spent the last 3 years at Lyman High School as an assistant principal. He is originally from Ohio and graduated from the University of Toledo and completed his master's degree at Nova Southeastern University. He is joined tonight by his Lyman family. I can see them out in the audience, and some of his student support service team members. I would also like to welcome Asia Smith as our new program specialist of school social work services. Asia received her undergraduate degree from the University of South Florida, but wait, and her graduate degree from the University of Central Florida, go Knights, in her Master's of Social Work. As a licensed clinical social worker and qualified clinical supervisor with 15 years of experience in child welfare, it is her goal to further enrich the social work practice and advocate for students and families we serve in Seminole County Public Schools. She's committed to practicing exceptional mental health therapy, promoting inclusivity, and providing optimal supervision and leadership to her team. She is joined tonight by her mother, Carolyn Walker, and several members of her social work team, along with her supervisor, Robert Vanderloop.
I gave a few minutes, yeah.
Doing focused on student
Okay, Superintendent, we have some school district highlights.
We do. We have the start of school updates. Each assistant superintendent will give a little bit of an update of how school started. And we'll start with elementary.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Beeman. Good evening, Board Chair Pennick and our board members. Our 37 elementary schools have had a phenomenal start to this school year. It's crazy to believe we're already in day 5. Some of our kindergartners, of course, on Monday forgot they actually had to go back to school. You know, they think the first day of school is an event, and once they've done it, and they sometimes that second week realize, oh, I have to keep coming. But so the second week is often the one where we see the proof in the pudding that they'll all come back. But our schools are thriving already. We have been welcoming the children, the families. It's very much like going back a couple years to what we know as normal. And it's been wonderful to be on our campuses, seeing our children already engaged in learning. They have been building routines, building relationships, very focused on safety. As you know, we've done a lot to make sure those things are in place. The children are already practicing. The teachers are ensuring that everything is what it needs to be for our families. They're ready after Labor Day to welcome moms and dads and grandparents and aunts and uncles and whoever likes to come for lunch that's on that emergency card, back to join them for lunch on our campus and really get back into the groove of what is normal. We really thank our teams for making sure everything was smooth sailing, and I'll let my other elementary colleagues give you some more. You wanted a quick update.
So Dr. Gooch and I have been visiting schools, welcoming new teachers and staff particularly. Ms. Beeman and I visited English Estates this morning. We toured their newly renovated media center and their many campus improvements that have been made. We are seeing students engaged with the learning, new ELA and math materials, and the best standards. And elementary has welcomed 5 new principals and 8 new assistant principals for this school year. So, thank you.
And of course, we're up and running with VPK. Our classrooms are very cheery and a little loud, and kids are having fun. So we're excited about that. We are well over 700 in our VPK program and still adding as we continue to grow with students as they are continuing enrollment. Have some new processes in place, but things are going well. We have over 2,300 kids now attending the Kids Zone program, and things are going well there also.
Evening. This year, I was able to join Chairman Pinnock and Superintendent Beeman on first day visits to 7 of our middle schools. Students were very quiet, unusually quiet in middle school those first couple of days, but excited to get started. I've had the chance to visit the remaining 5 middle schools, and we're up and ready for learning in middle schools. And very excited this week. We've started tryouts for volleyball. We're back to our normal sports schedule. I've gotten a couple of calls about that, so parents could be excited that we're starting our volleyball season pretty soon. So please join us in celebrating middle school sports.
All right, good evening. With our high schools, I was able to make it around to 6 of the high schools on the first day and been visiting the others since. A couple of just highlights. We've been focused a lot, as all the schools are, on safety and security. And the high schools have really taken some initiative and really done some things that are a little different. And we got to actually see that at one of our high schools, at Winter Springs High School. The high schools have really tried to, as you know, many of the schools have a lot of exit doors on the campuses. And they've really worked hard to have one point of entry. Of course, that's very difficult to do, so some have had to go a little bit more of 2 or 3. But we saw at Winter Springs High School that they moved to that one point of entry, and they actually stopped some adults that were trying to get on campus on the first day of school. We're able to ensure that it was just the students and there was a safe environment. So it's really helped by having somebody standing at those doors and really focus their energy on the safety of our campuses. Also, I got to visit to Lake Howell High School and got to see on the first day. It was kind of exciting because each visit had its own flair to it. I got to see some safety work. I saw some academics at Lake Howell, and they were focused on the Operation Graduation students that are working to fulfill their requirements to graduate with the FSA. And they were going at it right on the first day, and they were talking about the dates and what their goal is and how they got to really just hunker down and make it happen. And I also saw another English classroom that they were really building those relationships on day one, which is obviously what we want. And they were making their own tattoos that would represent them. They didn't put them on. They weren't doing any tattooing of the students. But it was great to see that they were really working to build those relationships and get to know their kids. So a lot of great things happen in our high schools, and look forward to a great year. Thank you.
Good evening. I had the pleasure of spending the first day of school with Ms. Krause, and I will save the highlights and lowlights for her board report at the end of the evening. The neck brace is not an impact of Ms. Krause's driving. I had it before we went. We do have just shy of 5,800 course enrollments at Seminole County Virtual School as of right now. We are getting about 300 new course enrollments each day as some of our middle and high school students sign up for those individual elective courses. And for the first time, this is the first time in 3 years that I think probably 99.99% of our students started the first day of virtual school with all of their classes scheduled because we didn't have some of the other interruptions that we've had in past years. So things are starting off great. In just a few minutes, I'll do another presentation from right there to tell you a little bit about how our CTE has started off for the year. So thank you very much.
So good evening. We had a great first week back, and we were so excited to welcome back more than 9,000 students with disabilities that are served on IEPs, along with 3,900 students that are served on a Section 504 plan. So that makes up about 20% of our student population. So we were busy getting out into schools to meet and greet all of these students. So most of our students, as you know, are served out in the regular ed classrooms. So our staff was out in regular classrooms. But along with that, we have students that need more direct supports based on their priority educational needs, and we have 163 self-contained classrooms district-wide, so we've been busy getting into all of those classrooms as well. So to meet with our teachers, our related service providers, to make sure that everybody has what they need. to thrive along with our special day center at Endeavor. So, because we have a lot of unique needs to meet in the district. So we've been able to prioritize some district funding to add some staff this year. We were able to add some nurses because we've had a growing number of medically fragile students join us this year in our district. We also were able to add 7 new social workers and 10 new mental health counselors to give us 47 social workers and 30 mental health counselors, which has allowed us full-time support at most of our high schools for mental health and an increased number of mental health supports at all school levels. So that was great to see. We've been doing some training, mentoring, and onboarding of all of those folks as well. So a big shout out to our community stakeholders because we were able to receive a lot of donations of backpacks and back to school supplies, which helped a lot of our at-risk students be prepared on the first day of school to be ready to learn alongside their peers. So we love our community and all of the support that we get from our parents as well in that area. Our mental health parent trainings kicked off again at the start of the school year, so that will be ongoing. And we will look forward to partnering both in person and virtually in that endeavor as well, along with our mentoring programs. So I do want to take a moment too to clarify some changes that came out to parents on the health services consent this year. So each year we put out a health services student emergency card. On the back of that card, parents are always notified of the health services available at our schools. So in previous years, it has stated if parents would like to opt out of those services, they needed to put something in writing to the principal. We had some changes in legislation that came out. House Bill 1557 required school districts to notify parents of healthcare services like we have before, but also to provide parents the opportunity to consent or decline any specific service. So therefore, the district requested parent consent for the school to provide general health services, which may include but is not limited to general first aid for complaints, illnesses, or injuries. For the vision, hearing, growth, and developmental screenings, parents will receive additional consent forms to either consent or decline those screenings as well as they're conducted out at schools this year. Students cannot be screened for those without that consent this year. So that's different than in previous years because we would screen any student for those screenings unless we received an opt-out letter from the parent. So I do want to help ease any concern because we've had some concerns that a student would be in danger of not receiving appropriate care if they're missing or have declined consent. We are fully committed to maintaining the physical safety of every student on our campus. So if a student is injured that has an immediate need for treatment on our campus, our staff will render all necessary care while doing their due diligence and reaching a parent or emergency contact. In the event of a serious accident or injury, our staff would call 911, contact a parent, and render emergency care. That has not changed for any student. If a student that doesn't have consent or is missing a consent has a minor injury or complaint, we will do everything in our power to contact that parent to obtain that consent and make that student comfortable in the interim. We're going to take care of our students each and every day on our campus. That has not changed. Okay, we have also had some questions about feminine products. We will continue to have those products available for students to access in the clinic restrooms. That's all I have for you. Have a great year.
Good evening, Chair Pinnock, board members, Superintendent Beeman. And I have a healthy list here of departments that I want to share about. But I was with Mr. Rice on the first day as well, and they were not putting on tattoos yet. But they were very much engaged. So I'd like to start out with talking about our transportation team. And it was a bumpy start as we were transitioning to a new routing system. That routing system had been part of a 2-year RFP process. So it wasn't something that was a switch that we were going to. It was a planned project, but it didn't happen to roll out exactly like we anticipated. In our district system, we had already, before the start of school, we had already assigned over 35,000 bus routes and stops, or 35,000 students to bus routes in place. And, you know, then before school started, we started hearing information about if you had certain iPhones, the app wasn't working, it wasn't working consistently. And then we heard issues about the website information was not consistent. On Monday, information that was in the app. On Tuesday, I had 3 kids. On Tuesday, 1 kid showed, 2 kids didn't. What happened? I don't have bus information or bus routes. So it was very confusing for our parents. It was very frustrating for our parents. It was very frustrating for our team because all the work had been done ahead of time, but the tool that was used to communicate this information out to our parents through the app and the website were not functioning properly. Once we worked with the vendor, they were able to come up with a patch pretty quickly. Once we got that patch and started the updates, we started seeing results. Basically Thursday, we started seeing improvements on that communication. We did some more updates by Friday. In essence, the emails and calls regarding I don't know what bus route or I don't have a stop pretty much had eliminated. Right now, I was talking to Mr. McKenzie. Today in queue for calls was 0. Really over the weekend, we were down to, the emails and calls were our normal things about wanting to change our bus stops, a bus stop for a student. So the team is working on that. They're working on normalizing the routes, which means they're trying to, again, where we have, even though the seats may be for there may be 3 seat belts, but trying to put sometimes 3 high schoolers in a seat might be difficult at times. So we're trying to normalize those routes and get that situated as well. So on a typical first day in transportation, the big thing for us is looking at the end of the day, did we get kids home safely? Did we do it in a timely fashion? And they got home safely in the right place. So even with 72 bus driver vacancies, we did not on the first day have to do double runs. And for example, what that is in the morning where in some school districts, buses are running, picking kids up, going to school, then they go back out, pick up another load of students and come back in the afternoons. They drop off students, come back, and then pick up and drop off. We didn't have to do that. And again, just an amazing team. We had mechanics, we had some of our office support team, managers, all out driving buses to meet those needs, which also, unfortunately, impacted sometimes our response time with phone calls and emails and those things. So with all that kind of bumpiness, that Tuesday, especially in the Wednesday, even though it was an early release day, we actually, compared to most years, our students were delivered earlier than in past years. Also, again, one of the biggest things that we have every year is those little kiddos, especially elementary, sometimes they make it to the wrong bus, and sometimes they like to make it to the wrong stop as well. And I'll tell you, this year, our entire SCPS team did a phenomenal job in making sure our kids were in the right places. And I can only recall maybe 3 incidents where we may have had a kiddo get on the wrong bus, and that was resolved very, very quickly. And to help with that, too, we had a member of our sheriff's office, part of our school safety security team, sitting behind me. He was in our dispatch office at transportation. Again, just at another level of assurance, making sure our kids are safe and that we have a quick response time. So first day, transportation, it ended well. But it was a bumpy ride to get to that point. So, but a great job by our team there. Our Red Apple Dining team, this year was a very different year for our Red Apple Dining team in that the USDA eliminated funding to school districts to provide all meals free to all students. So that was a big change, and they did a fantastic job. I know our first day meals, the percentage of meals we served was higher than we did last year. And those meals, the number of guests dining with us continue to grow. They had a fantastic day. I also, just a reminder to our parents, if you're needing help with meals, please just go to our website. The meal benefit application is on there, and take the time to complete that. USDA always updates their income requirements, and it doesn't take very long, just if you need that additional assistance. Our facility services maintenance team, again, did an extraordinary job getting our schools ready, prepared for our students on the first day. Those first 3 days, we had 100+ degree weather, and that is difficult on all systems in Florida. So they did a great job ensuring we're ready. And our facilities planning team as well, just making sure our projects were completed or were to a point that we could get kids safely on campus. So kudos to everybody, and definitely team effort by the whole SCPS team, and better together.
Okay, we will have our focus on student achievement next with Dr. Gard Harold and team.
Me again. So before we start, I just want to say, first of all, I have one of the coolest jobs in this district, and I thank you for letting me do it. I have with me this evening Allie Hilliard, who is our coordinator for career and technical education, and Patty Kaysen, who is one of our teachers over at Crooms Academy, and they will be sharing some information with you a little bit later. We want to tell you a little bit of this story, and for anyone else that maybe isn't familiar with the story of ePathways and career and technical education in Seminole County Public Schools. And so ePathways, a lot of folks will think that we are either just career and technical education, which some folks may know as vocational education, or they may think that we're just the computer science people, or we're just the Seminole County virtual school people. But the answer to all of those things is yes, we are all of those. We actually oversee multiple programs and projects within the district, including all of the ones that you can see here on your screen. Most of those you're probably familiar with. The ones that may be a little bit unique or different to you would be the career and technical student organizations, this CTSOs. Those are things like DECA, BPA, Skills USA. So each of the industries has their own CTSO that students can be a part of. And so we work with all of those CTSOs to make sure that they are, that we incentivize their sponsors, that if they are going to state or national tournaments, we provide some support for them to attend those events. And so we have great involvement and great respect for those programs, those students, and those teachers. Because we are a complex department, we wanted to look at a new campaign over the course of the next few years to get out the word of what is ePathways. And we're doing that with a campaign called What's Your E? And so we want to ask all of our students, elementary, middle, and high, when you graduate from high school, what's your E? Are you going to seek enlistment in the military or in our public service fields? Are you going to seek enrollment in post-secondary education through college, trade school? Are you going to seek immediate employment? And you're going to put those industry certifications that you learned in Seminole County Public Schools right to work in the workforce. And we value all of those options for our students. And so we want to get out in front of our students and start helping them understand what their E is and what decisions they can make in the meantime to make sure that when they graduate, they are ready to go and be successful in whatever field they select. So we're going to talk a little bit about today about CTE, because I think some folks may drive around the county and they say, well, I don't see technical colleges, or I don't see some of the things that maybe I see in Orange County, and that's because we're Seminole, and we do things a little bit differently here. And so our career and technical education programs are built right into our high schools. And for all of our programs of emphasis, we have transfer options for students. So let's say I'm a student at Haggerty High School, and I really want to be in an automotive program. I have two options. I have multiple options. I could transfer to Seminole and do automotive. I could transfer to Oviedo and do automotive. I could do an after-school automotive program. I could transfer to Lyman and do automotive. So they have all sorts of options to do the programs that interest them, and they can get to those programs. And then, unlike maybe other systems where they have technical colleges, they get to stay on campus with their classmates all day. And so they get to have lunch with their classmates. They're not being kind of put to a different location, and so they do get to feel that full sense of school community. And so I could tell you all about our CTE programs, but I think that there are better voices that can tell you all about them. And so we are going to launch in and let our students be the first to tell you about those.
Being in this program really inspired me to become a barber. Before school, I get to cut hair. After school, I get to cut hair. In between, lunches, everything. And Miss Simpson really helped with letting me cut hair in the cosmetology lab and really made me want to participate, want to do good in school.
Hi, my name is Emma, and I'm in 10th grade at Lake Mary High School, and this is the Advanced Manufacturing Program. Without this class, I couldn't have imagined other possibilities of work for me to do in the future.
After I graduate, I want to become a history teacher because this program has sparked the interest of interacting with kids and affecting their lives. My teacher, Miss Hennessy, has inspired me to become a teacher. Without her, I would never have imagined it.
I came to this school specifically for the biotechnology program, and coming in, I didn't really have any lab experience, but now that I've completed 3 years of this program, I've learned so much about how to work in a lab and what biotechnology involves. So we've done labs like UV spectrophotometry, PCR, and gel electrophoresis, and this is definitely like some skills that will really help me in the future when I want to go to college and work in a lab there.
The big step up in the culinary program has really broadened my capabilities and my skills regarding not just being able to cook, but actually being able to create dishes, and really has helped prepare me for real-world experiences.
My name is Ramaya, and I am a junior in TV production at Lyman High School. Without Miss Goodrich, I could not see myself being successful in the film and TV industry. Miss Goodrich is a really good mentor. I feel like she helps everybody. She cares about everyone, not just like about the grades. She wants you to do better, and she wants you to succeed in the future as well.
My name is Tyler Hastings. I'm a junior in the construction program at Lyman High School. If I wasn't in this construction program, I wouldn't have even thought of having a job in the construction industry. It's nice having all these different instruments and tools being like right here at your hands, using them. Having the ability just to learn from a great teacher and being able to just learn every different kind of skill you need to know.
My name is Asia, and I am a student in the digital media program at Crims Academy. Because of this class, I was inspired to pursue a career in media. It's given me useful tools that will help me with graphic design and video production.
My name is Varian. I go to Seminole High School. I'm part of the Aviation Academy, and I've been doing this for the past 4 years. Getting the opportunity to become a private pilot at 17 from Seminole High School is something I never dreamed would be possible.
My name is Garrett Kramer. I'm a junior at Lake Mary High School, and I'm in the technical design program. Without this course, I would not have considered even becoming an engineer. This class gave me the passion to pursue engineering after high school.
My name is Grace Cody. I am a sophomore at Lake Brantley High School, and I work as a student teller for the Addition Financial Program. Without taking this course, I don't think I would have developed a passion for finance. Working in high school has set me apart from other candidates going out for the same internship this summer.
My name is Cade Sowers. I'm in the TV production program here at Lake Brantley. After high school, I plan on studying TV production and film, and if it wasn't for this class, then I probably wouldn't be going that direction, but I've had a lot of fun here, so I want to continue that going forward.
So we saw a beautiful sampling of some of our programs. They weren't all included, but a good sampling. And so often we're asked, well, how do you decide which programs? What is the program development process? And so I just provided there some information that we have to ensure that any program that is offered to our students meets what's called size, scope, and quality. And that's a Perkins requirement, but also just a good measure of what makes a solid program for our students. So is there a comprehensive sequence of learning? Does it meet our current and future workforce? We work with our economic councils, our local industry partners, and gather feedback from them in order to determine what are the local needs and the regional workforce needs. Does it provide some sort of experiential learning, whether that's an internship, an OJT, on-the-job training experience? Does it allow for our business and industry partners to be engaged in the learning? We had a wonderful professional development opportunity for our teachers where a panel of industry experts actually came and talked about some of the skills that were universally a need for students going into our local workforce. And I think really where we're focusing on program development is quality. Do students have the opportunity to receive a post-secondary credential, whether it's a dual enrollment, an industry certification credential, an articulated credit through our programs? We literally today went through every single one of our programs to ensure that's an opportunity for our students while they're in high school. Does it integrate the academic as well as the technical and employability skills? And does it provide an industry standard education using industry standard equipment in industry standard facilities? And how do we support our teachers with ongoing professional development so that they can stay abreast of the industry trends for the industry in which they teach? And finally, and this is certainly our priority for this year as it came out of our local needs analysis, but have we eliminated barriers and created opportunities for all students to succeed in CTE? And we do receive student, parent, and teacher feedback on interest in programs as well. So we're just going to very quickly, this is going to be a whole lot of data, so we're going to go through it quickly, just feature all of our programs, but we do want to highlight a few. And in this one, I want you to just see the enrollment for digital design in our television production. Both of those programs have tremendous program retention, but they are also offered at the majority of our high schools as well, which is why you see that enrollment number quite high. We are very excited about entrepreneurship and sort of getting away from it just meaning owning a small business, but that entrepreneurial mindset and the ability to innovate. In fact, we are rolling out some entrepreneurship curriculum to our automotive, our cosmetology programs, as well as our building trades, because those are certainly areas where innovation and business ownership makes sense. And so we are excited to see entrepreneurship grow. We do have the POE at Lake Howell High School, which offers students both a CTE and an AA degree, so they get to choose their path. Going back to Sean's what's your E? They do have that opportunity to choose the path that makes sense for them, whether it be the CTE pathway in that program of emphasis or the associate's degree partnered with Seminole State College.
So in our construction and transportation, you can see we have a number of options for our students. I want to highlight a couple of them. Of course, there's a lot there to see and marvel at. Let's talk just a second about our Oviedo High School automotive program. So as Allie was talking about, we want to work with eliminating barriers. And so one thing we want to do is see non-traditional students in programs. So we want to see girls in automotive and girls in building trades. We want to see boys in early childhood and cosmetology and barbering. And that's actually a requirement of the grant that we focus on those things. And so in the automotive program at Oviedo High School, they took all the girls that had signed up for Oviedo High School's automotive programs and they put them in 2 sections. So it looks like there's a ton of girls in automotive, and they're all taking selfies with the teachers, and they're really starting to build some interest in girls in automotive just because Dr. Daniel and Dr. Menta at Oviedo High School made that decision to really focus on that enrollment. At Lyman High School, we of course have the Academy of the Building Trades program, and we put that to good use every day. We are actually maxed out on course enrollments at this point, which is a wonderful problem to have. But over the summer, we put it to use too with the National Association of Women in Construction. And they had 30 young ladies out there that for 1 week built community libraries and had those distributed around Seminole County. And so we are working diligently to utilize all of those spaces. In the health and science, of course, we're all very familiar with the Health Academy, and we have a phenomenal program over at Seminole High School. 2 that I want to highlight additionally on this slide would be Personal Trainer, which is a new program we have over at Lake Mary High School. So this is our first year, so we've got 15 kids that we're brave enough to try out the personal trainer, the certifications for that are actually quite challenging. And so we will kind of, use that little petri dish of students, and they will give us some feedback on what's going well and what's not going well. And then also the wastewater program over at Altamont Springs. The city of Altamont, we have a great partnership with them for our wastewater program. You only see 11 students in that program. Well, it's only at Lake Brantley High School, and it's only for students who are seniors because you have to be 18 to take the exam. And so our students can graduate, they can start to seek immediate employment, and every single one of us is really glad that we have people who are interested in working wastewater, because it means a lot to have clean water running through your drain or through your faucets when you turn them on at home.
In our service programs, again, I'm going to point to the incredibly high enrollment in our culinary arts. For those of us who know high schoolers, we probably know the motivation for signing up for those, but regardless, it has incredible program retention. So even if they just signed up for Culinary 1 because they wanted to eat during their school day, they're staying in the program, which is incredible. Our early childhood education as well, tremendous program retention, and as Sean talked about, we are looking at how can early childhood education be reframed a little bit as to mentoring, sports coaching, some of that mentorship opportunity to grow that non-traditional enrollment as well. Our Public Service Academy is a program that I am very excited about, first of all, because it has the principles of teaching, which is near and dear to my heart, and tremendous opportunity for our students who want to go on to become teachers, but also our criminal justice and our emergency management and response. And so we are so excited to be offering some dual enrollment opportunities for these students that didn't exist prior to this year. And then our technology. These programs are flourishing and recognizing the need. Speaking of local and regional need, these are them. I wanted to highlight our modeling and sim program at Hagerty High School. They actually just did a lab renovation because they recognized that their lab was not up to the industry standard experience, and so they prioritized and allocated some funding to renovate that lab. And we are so thankful for the partnership that we have with both Dot Decimal and UCF. Again, coming back to that quality, making sure we have the industry standard experience with industry partners for our students.
And so just a little bit of the data by the numbers. We won't go through all of these because all of you can see those on your own, but for the first one, we do have 30 CTE programs made up of 158 high school courses and 22 middle school courses. Because we couldn't discuss all of them, I have last year's guide, and I set a stack of them back by the agendas for today's meeting in case anybody was interested. We are looking at moving to a digital guide because these are pretty expensive to print, and also, unfortunately, they're a little hard to keep track of, I think, for some folks. And then the other thing that we're going to focus on over the course of the next, forever, we had more than 90 students who earned either a state or a national award in career and technical education through those CTSOs. And so we want to start bringing those students to you as we do with our athletes, as we do with our science fair and social studies fair winners, and acknowledge the hard work of those students because they have skills that certainly I don't have, and we want to make sure that we recognize their outstanding work and dedication.
And I wanted to highlight the more than 17,000 CTE course enrollments for this year. That is incredible, the fact that our students have the opportunity to participate in those courses. And then finally, a source of pride, I think, for us is, yes, we received the annual Perkins Grant, and that is an entitlement grant, but we were able to secure above that more than $800,000 for our CTE programs last year. And we are thrilled because it is providing tremendous opportunity to not only our students, but our teachers in terms of professional development as well.
So we know our teachers are the ones that make all of this happen, and so our students had a few words for our teachers.
Mr. Salaji, thank you for everything you do.
If it wasn't for you teachers, then I wouldn't be where I am today.
If not for you teachers, I wouldn't have pursued my passion for animation.
Teachers, if not for you, I'd not be where I am today.
I want to make Mr. Wells proud.
I would not be where I am today if it were not for you teachers.
And speaking of exceptional teachers, it is now my pleasure to introduce Miss Patty Kaysen.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patricia Kaysen, and I am a dual enrollment instructor at Crooms High School in Sanford. This is actually my 10th amazing year teaching there, and I'm just so thrilled and so excited to be a teacher at Crooms. And I would just like to share with you guys a story of one of my students that I taught in my dual enrollment course for Seminole State College. This student was a very hard-working student, and we had a lab. I work Cisco routing technology is what I teach, and it's all about troubleshooting, not just teaching the students how to put it together, but to figure out what is the issue, what's the problem. And sometimes that can be difficult for high school students. But I'm one of those instructors that I know that you can do it, and I'm gonna make sure that you do the work. So this student got really upset with me one day in class, and he did not speak to me for 3 days because he was just so upset and frustrated. And he's like, Ms. Kaysen, you're not helping me. And I said, you can do it, and I know you can do it. And when he finally figured out what the problem was, it was just like, oh my God, Ms. Kaysen, I got this. It makes sense now. And then from that moment on, he took 2 additional courses with me. He also, at the college, Seminole State College, he was my work study student, and he also was the work study student with the IT department. He was a tutor for our students at Seminole State College. So he was tutoring college students, and he did a phenomenal job. And then later on, I saw this guy. I saw him again. And I'm like, this guy looks so familiar, because it had been a couple years since I'd seen him. And I kept looking at this guy, and I'm like, he looks so familiar. And it finally clicked who this person was. He was a student of mine. And right now, he's sitting over there, Skylar Skadusky. And I'm so happy and thrilled to say that he is a first-time teacher at Crooms High School.
And when Ms. Kaysen first told us this story, no one else wanted to tell a story after that, and so we just concluded that portion of our meeting, because you can't beat bringing a prop like a former student. And so we are so appreciative to the board for your continued support of career and technical education. We are so thankful for teachers like Ms. Kaysen and Mr. Swidarski, and we are thrilled to death with the opportunities that we provide for our students here in Seminole County. And we are thrilled to death, but we are not satisfied, because we will never be satisfied, because our kids will always deserve more.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gard-Harold. Okay, board members, any items for discussion? Member Almond?
No items, Chairman.
Member Calderon?
No, ma'am.
Member Kraus?
No items, thank you.
And I have none either. So Member Kraus, would you please read the public comment notice?
The purpose of the public participation segment of the board meeting is to allow the public to address matters within the board's jurisdiction and not for resolving individual grievances or disputes. Public comments related to education, the board agenda, and the district are welcome and encouraged. To maintain orderly conduct, the public comments segment of the meeting may not be used as an open forum to discuss matters unrelated to education, to support or oppose candidates for public office, including presentation of political and/or campaign issues, announcing candidacy or campaigning, or to engage in commercial speech attempting to sell a service or product to the board or to the public. Nor is it a forum to address matters involving disciplinary actions of any kind, pending claims, complaints, or litigation against the district or district personnel. Also, public comment is not a forum to engage in personal attacks against school system employees or board members. Statements made by a member of the public shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. One designated group representative speaking on a proposition before the board will have a maximum of 6 minutes. No speaker may yield his or her time to any other person. Substitutions of speakers will not be allowed except in exceptional circumstances as determined by the presiding officers. Speakers shall direct their comments only to the board and may not address the audience or any other speakers. This policy does not prohibit the board from maintaining orderly conduct or proper decorum in a public meeting.
Thank you, Member Kraus. As you have provided a clear statement of the requirements for civility and decorum during school board meetings pursuant to Board Policy 169.1, I would like to reiterate that the public comment section of this meeting is not a forum to engage in personal attacks, heckling, abusive comments, or verbal outbursts in disruption of conducting an orderly meeting. Remarks must relate to the business of the district. Should a speaker persist in conducting in violation of board policy, the microphone will be turned off and the speaker will be instructed to step away from the podium. Everyone in this assembly is warned that failure to conduct oneself as stated above may be removed. We will start off with Dan Smith, Judy Ning, and followed by Deborah Donahue.
Thank you. My name is Dan Smith. I am a Orange County resident, but I work for Seminole County Public Schools. Presently, I am the president of the Seminole Education Association. Beginning of the school year, be my 31st in public education, and I love this time of the year. And I do want to thank you as a group board for helping us resolve the uncertainty of what was going to be in the classroom. Not just resolving it, but prioritizing it. I think it took about 4 hours from the time it was first addressed, and I do appreciate that. That being said, if we could continue the wave of collaboration, I would like to just ask to bring up and let you know about class coverage that we have. Due to the pandemic and the lack of subs that we have, last year the SEA and SCPS agreed to the teachers agreed to a concession of their contract for plan time purposes in order to cover the classes. None of our teachers, even though they certainly enjoy their rights, they would never want to have a classroom unsupervised for the children here. And the reason I'm asking you is right now we are in the process, the SEA and SCPS is working on something to come up with, just anticipating there's a problem, but we haven't come to an agreement yet. Some of your principals have already jumped the gun, and there's probably 12 calls that I got today where they've already come up with a sub-plan and imposed it on the teachers. I'm asking you to please communicate them to wait until there's an agreement, number one. And as this is a concession from our collective bargaining agreement, I find it would be appropriate that the teachers would be involved in the sub-plan as the same way it was last year, which is part of our giving up what we would do. Tomorrow's and the timing's good because tomorrow's an early release Wednesday. They could meet with them and they could probably knock it off in an hour or something like to have that, and we get the agreement. But just, we're getting there, we appreciate it, but we would just like to ask you to please just hold off on the principals sending something out there until the teachers have a chance to come to an agreement with the district, and that the teachers can collaborate with the principal to come up with something that would work as a concession. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Superintendent Beeman and board members. My name is Judy Ning, and I'm a teacher at Lake Howell. Every year when I return to the classroom is unlike any other year. New staff and faculty, new rules, new laws. But this year we have classrooms without teachers, and the reasons are obvious. There are schools where the principal is insisting pride flags or any LGBTQ display be taken down. These images are necessary for our vulnerable students to know they are safe. We have teachers afraid they may utter the wrong words and be accused of being woke, a word our governor commandeered to shame anyone who has an open mind. We're also told we cannot give out Band-Aids or menstrual supplies if a student does not have a medical release on file. We are not allowed to ask a student what they would like to be called. For example, Michael, do you prefer Mike? Alexandra, or do you prefer Alex? What will be our punishment if we do? No one is really clear on that. What we teachers are clear on is we want to keep our jobs. We all need this source of income. So what do? Keep our heads down, do not interact with the students, maybe just give them the textbook and have them answer the questions in the back of the chapter. This is a really hard job. The teaching is actually the easier part. It's the issues that these kids bring with them every day that affect their learning and behavior. This is the hard part, but we have to deal with it. Some kids are hungry. Some kids live in abusive homes. Some may have gotten kicked out. Some may have had their hearts broken. These laws, which were not school board issued, they were issued by the public education hating party in Tallahassee. They're making our job go from hard to impossible. We are just beginning to feel the effects of the lack of teachers. What current high school graduate would think this profession would be a great career? They see the decline, why would they want to be a part of it? And that decline is happening right here in Seminole. Right now, Seminole County is surrounded by counties that have settled their contracts, but not us. The Florida Education Association considers Seminole County's insurance plan for its employees to be one of the worst in the state. If we do not have a plan to retain and attract teachers, our district will not maintain its reputation of having quality education. That reputation is what brings people here to live and work. August 23rd is Election Day. Everyone is eligible to vote. I hope all of our teachers get to vote because there are a few of them that are having open house that night. Thank you.
Good evening, board members, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Deborah Donahue. I'm a stakeholder in this community. I'm also an educator with 31 years of experience, and I'm a very proud parent of a recent graduate. And I wanted to start out by thanking teachers for the amazing education that my child received. We're in the midst of an unprecedented teacher shortage in Florida, actually the nation. I want to make sure that our teachers are acknowledged for their hard work and their dedication. So we're going to adopt a new social studies curriculum. We have to make sure it's robust and historically accurate. It has to represent all of our students' histories and not try to trivialize the facts about slavery or the end of segregation. A good social studies education is critical for good citizens. It must also include diverse points of view and not be limited to Pollyanna-esque representation of facts. The group of social studies teachers my daughter had for her IB history classes did a masterful job of teaching her true history. She learned how to think critically about the world and not have a narrow point of view. I applaud their hard work and dedications. They're exemplary teachers and should be used as a model as to how history should be taught. One of her teachers used a game about Crusades to teach about the Crusades. He had an entire group of second semester seniors in the middle of senioritis, so fascinated by the Crusades that they would spend hours texting back and forth, not to gossip, but to talk about the Crusades. They were reading textbooks outside of class. That's an example of how we have to teach history and make sure all diverse populations are represented. Please keep this in mind when you're looking at social studies materials. Thank you again to all of our teachers. You're appreciated. To Ms. May, Dr. Loomis, and Mr. Karnitz, I can't say thank you enough. Also to Ms. Ivy and Mr. Parker, thank you so much for incorporating history into your literature lessons.
Haley Donahue, followed by Darla Mink, followed by Chris Mink.
Hi, I'm Haley Donahue. I am a recent graduate of Seminole County Public Schools. I've read that there are people who are pushing to have history textbooks and the history curriculum across the state and in the district updated and revised. And by that, I mean they're looking to modify the textbooks used. History is not going to tell us that everything was beautiful and nothing hurt. That's not what history is. History is an understanding of the past and how it brought us to the place we are today. Seminole County Public Schools is an A-rated school district, and as such, our history courses and history curricula throughout the district should reflect that. When discussing updating the history curriculum, I speak from the perspective of someone who graduated with an IB diploma and who took AP history courses throughout high school. I cannot speak from the perspective of someone who sat in history courses that were not AP or IB. But I can speak from the perspective of someone whose middle school history textbook in 8th grade was really, really outdated and had offensive language and not actually historically accurate perspectives provided that shared misinformation. As such, I agree that there should be a revitalization of the history curriculum. More sources should be added to the course so that a wider breadth of information is available for students. There should be sources that discuss the perspectives of individuals whose voices are not usually uplifted. It is especially important to examine history curricula while experiencing history ourselves. The COVID-19 pandemic is not going to be forgotten, nor will civil unrest be ignored. As we live today, we see that these times are not unprecedented. Book bannings have happened before, so it goes. Civil unrest has happened before, so it goes. Pandemics have happened before, so it goes. Certain classes, even in middle and high school, ignore these events in favor of teaching a more palatable history to everyone. History should not be reframed in a way that makes it palatable. History courses instead should expand the amount of diverse sources available. When teaching Conrad in English literature, Achebe and the history surrounding what Conrad wrote about should be provided. I was lucky to have that in the IB program. As my mother mentioned, we had an entire project on the Crusades. We learned about so many different perspectives throughout the Crusades. It's more than just Western Europe. The era of industrialization and imperialism is not just about the growth of the United States and Europe, but it is also about the harm done to those who were exploited by the previously mentioned nations. The truth does not always glitter and shine, but the truth is the most important part of history. We can only understand the truth when we teach what really happened with updated books, updated curricula, and the voices of many instead of just the voice of one. Thank you.
Order, please. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry for a moment. I got word from the booth that we have a different microphone on the public speaking podium. We don't have that typical bar. And the booth and the live stream is having a very difficult time hearing our public commenters. So I would just ask for those who are going to speak next to get very close to the microphone like this so that it records and the folks at home can hear you.
I'm Darla Mink. I'm a freshman at Lake Brantley High School.
You're going to have to pull the mic a little bit closer to you. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Darla Mink, and I'm a freshman at Lake Brantley High School. I'm here today to talk about the PE uniforms. Since the new dress code was put into place back in July, why are we still expected to wear these ridiculous gym clothes not meant to fit anyone's body?
Miss Mink, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask if we can maybe move the microphone. Can you move the whole bar closer to you? You can slide it up closer to you. Yeah. That.
Okay.
It's uncomfortable, but you got to talk right into the little mic.
Okay, here we go. Take two, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Darla Mink, and I'm
Yep. Pull it. You can pull it down close to your. There you go.
Hi, I'm Darla Mink, and I'm a freshman at Lake Brantley High School. And I'm here today to talk about the PE uniforms. Since the new dress code was put back into place in July, why are we still expected to wear these ridiculous gym clothes not meant to fit anyone's body? The gym clothes are unisex and have sizes small, medium, large, and extra large. The question is, whose body are these meant to fit? As we should all know, men and women are not built the same. So why are we all expected to wear the same exact clothes? As a girl who's only 5 foot, these shorts are past my knees and the rise is way up to my ribs. The shirt touches my mid-thigh as well. I purchased the smallest size available, which is only a small. Not to mention, the top is very see-through because of the white color and cheap material. And the SCPS dress code, it states see-through garments are prohibited, so why are PE clothes an exception to this rule? It's difficult to move in clothes that are extremely large and don't fit the body comfortably. Everyone must take a PE credit, but we are graded on our ability to dress out. How are we supposed to pass when the clothes do not fit our bodies? My solution to this problem would either be able to bring our own dress code appropriate exercise clothes or at least give us options for all sizes and genders. Thank you.
Chris Mink.
This is good. All right. So that was my daughter. I'm here to bring the clothes. I can show you the clothes. I'm Chris Mink, and this is the shirt. I'm her size, so you can see it dangles quite low. Sorry, dangles quite low. And these are the shorts, and they're one size fits all, and they're tiny little waist and really long. So coming from an exercise physiologist, I have my degree in phys ed, so the guys that say they want to be a personal trainer, I can help you out with that. I've been a personal trainer for 25 years, have my own business for 20. You're going to have to blend a lot of things like marketing and sales and everything else in that CTE program, because that's what personal training is.
Mr. Mink, please continue.
One of the most important things is you're closed in self-esteem when it comes to exercise. Gym is already one of those places where everybody gets a little apprehensive and doesn't know anybody, especially her. She's a freshman at high school at Lake Brantley. And all the sizes are pretty much one size fits all, as she said, and they're made for both sexes, you know. So you guys have a whole store at Lake Brantley. You can go online. You can go on to multiple websites and find multiple companies selling female gear, youth gear, that you could pick from with Lake Brantley on it, or any other school, because I don't know how it is at other schools. And I think you're missing a whole monetizing item there, that you're not promoting these clothes that actually look good on my daughter. So she has to wear one of these, and I know it's not just the small kids, it's the big kids, it's the really tall kids, it's the kids that are awkward in their bodies. So I think we gotta come up with a plan that they can wear any shorts. And my other one, my sixth grader's right over there, she has the same problem in middle school. So we're tiny people, but there's also the extreme on the other side of that. So I'm hoping that we can make a correction. I know we did a great job, you know, really pushing the all the ladies that came up here from high school, that the dress code. So I wondered if we could change the dress code or modify it for gym classes so that people feel more comfortable in their clothes. One of the suggestions, obviously, is just do a T-shirt with your logo on it, and then the girls can wear what they want, or the boys can wear what they want in shorts. I know for me, you really don't want a long, you know, torso thing, and you don't want a really long crotch thing, so that you're, you know, walking in this spiderweb looking thing. So if we could make any changes, it'd be appreciated. And I think you're really missing out on the monetization of the outfits and the Lake Brantley gear or whatever school you're with, because that's big money. And if you go on the websites, most of the T-shirts are $17, $15, $20. We paid $20 for this, so never, ever, ever wear this outside PE. And then also the other thing comes down to, PE is only two semesters in high school to pass. We've taken PE and just thrown it out. It's really almost useless at this point, and that's coming from a guy that exercises all the time. It's now down to the point where we just kind of just burn through it, and it's like, oh, just get a credit and get it over with. So they bring their textbooks on some days, and they still need to dress out, even though they're not doing anything physical. Today was a couple days into school as the people spoke. It's bumpy in the beginning. All they did was walk around the track for half a mile, and then you got to play volleyball or basketball. Well, that's really not instruction. So I think the PE teachers, no offense to them, they told her she can modify the uniform, she can roll it down, and she can modify the shirt, and I think that's defeating the purpose. Anyway, I hope we can make a change in the PE uniforms. I appreciate your time today. Thanks.
Regina Dargle, followed by Kimberly Bowen, followed by Jen Richard.
Hi, my name is Gina Dargell, and I've been an SLP, speech-language pathologist in Seminole County for 20 years. As I reviewed the bargaining contract from the 21-22 year, I was surprised to see that speech pathologists were not listed with their counterpart therapists. Actually, on page 2 of the contract, which states the bargaining unit shall include the following employees, speech pathologists were not even listed. Talk about being overlooked. As I researched further into our job description on the Seminole County Public School website, not once does it say provide therapy. My job description does not say provide therapy, but I provide therapy every day. I'm here to educate those on what an SLP and Seminole County Public School does and to compare it to our allied health counterparts, our OTs and our PTs. Here are just a few things that we all do. OTs, PTs, and STs is what we're called, speech therapists. We administer a wide range of assessments in our specialty field. We all perform classroom observations and check and collect information regarding our ESE students' needs and skills. We all interpret and analyze the results and generate reports from the assessments that we perform. We ensure that all information is required for ESE decision-making purposes, that it is available and reviewed as we participate as members of the student study team. Occupational therapists, physical therapists, and speech and language therapists plan, schedule, and provide therapy services for eligible students that are either occupational impaired, physically impaired, or speech and language impaired. We all have our national board certification. SLPs had to pass the Praxis. Occupational therapists had to pass the CODA, and physical therapists had to pass the NPTE. We all have a Department of Health license. We have to obtain clinical education units, CEUs, which are required by law to maintain our state license. Many of us are members of American associations of our specific specialty, our specific profession. Like we have ASHA, occupational therapists have AOTA. I'm also here to advocate for our profession. I know my worth. I am reminded of my worth every day as I receive calls, texts, and emails from recruiter companies. I am reminded how valuable we are because we still have unfilled positions in our SCPS schools. I know our worth. Do you?
Order, please.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Bowen, and I'm a speech pathologist with 26 years of experience and 20 years in Seminole County. The reason why I'm here tonight is to discuss how overlooked SLPs have been in this district. Did you know that in the current SEA contract, page 4 in Article 1 titled Recognition, if you look to Section B, you'll see that speech language pathologists are not mentioned. However, all other allied health professionals and student support service employees are listed, such as occupational therapists, physical therapists, school psychologists, audiologists, etc. These are the same colleagues I meet with weekly to case review and to discuss and share evaluations to determine a plan for individual students. As I continued to look through the contract, I found that on page 6, it defines a professional specialist. It states that a professional specialist is an employee who possesses unique or elevated skills, education, and/or experience in a particular field. Let me read that again. A professional specialist is defined as an employee who possesses unique or elevated skills, education, or experience in a particular field. Now let's define what a speech-language pathologist is. Speech-language pathologists are experts in communication. A speech-language pathologist is a health professional who evaluates and diagnoses speech, language, communication, and swallowing disorders. We work in a variety of settings, such as hospitals, rehab centers, private clinics, long-term care facilities, and schools. We treat speech, language, communication, and swallowing disorders. We provide training and education to family, caregivers, and other professionals. And we work collaboratively with professionals from many other disciplines, such as physicians, dietitians, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and mental health professionals. Wouldn't you agree that a speech-language pathologist would be considered a professional specialist just by definition? Well, not according to our county. We are told that a master's degree in speech-language pathology is the minimum requirement for your position. Therefore, we're not paid as specialists. Let that sink in a little. As you look further into the contract, you'll see that SLPs aren't mentioned until page 71 under extracurricular and other supplements. We're listed among drama coaches, peer teachers, high school yearbook sponsors, and virtual school teachers. whereas all our other allied health professionals are listed at the top of page 70 under supplemental schedule for instructional positions. Again, the main reason we're all here today and the reason we're pointing out the discrepancies is because it's time that speech language pathologists in Seminole County are treated and compensated fairly. We want equitable wages compared to allied health colleagues. Thank you for your time.
Order, please.
Good evening. I was going to read a parent letter or reiterate statistics we've heard ad nauseum, but tonight I'll be speaking from the heart, which is what I do best. 15 years ago, when I was the lead for Seminole Assistive Technology Team, I was fortunate to visit a self-contained class at Indian Trails Middle School. A student in this class was nonverbal. His wonderful teacher would walk around class and offer the student a sip of juice regularly to make sure he wasn't thirsty. 2 weeks later, after programming a device for him, he was able to push an icon and ask for a drink for the first time on his own in 14 years. There were lots of happy tears that day, and it has been a defining moment in both my professional and personal life, and it will always be. Last night, a former Seminole County Public School SLP colleague shared with me her first pay stub after switching to Osceola County. With 10 years experience, she is now making almost $20,000 more than I do with 20 years experience. What is more upsetting is looking at our OT-PT therapist colleagues' pay stubs. I'd see the same results, over a $10,000 discrepancy between us and our counterparts. Many district SLPs have contacted me to say they are waiting through the bargaining process to take their next step. If not compensated, a significant number of us will move on. This is not speculation. This is a fact. My colleagues and I want to stay. Believe it or not, we are fighting to stay. All we ask is SCPS help us do that, because when it happens and when we leave, more vacancies and or underqualified positions in our district will occur, and this is not the SCPS way. Thank you.
James Evans, followed by Steve Cornia, followed by Nina Sandberg.
Good evening, Superintendent, ladies of the board. I'm here on a couple of items. The first, I'd like to talk about one of the items on the consent agenda, item Z, moving the non-agenda items public input down from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. And I know right now it's in the preliminary phases. You guys are just putting out the public notice. But as you guys start to talk about that, please consider the school board has already taken many actions in the last year to reduce the availability to the public. And this would be yet another step to reduce availability. That's going to be a key piece for many, many people. And I can't imagine the 1 minute makes a hill of beans on any individual night and even over the course of a school year. So just something to consider for that. My next piece is I was talking with a couple of teachers and paraprofessionals today, and it seems that this might be more of an operations issue, so perhaps it's more towards superintendent. But there's a discrepancy for getting paid for non-recurring supplemental pay. In particular, when a teacher gives up their voluntary plan period to cover another teacher's period, getting that paid through the SCPS launchpad or pay system, there's no drop-down menu for that, and that just seems like a super easy thing to take care of, to make sure that, because right now I guess the policy is to email or get with the principal's secretary to make sure they're getting that pay. And I'd like to also say, none of these teachers said they haven't been paid, all right? So it's not necessarily falling through the cracks, but in this digital age, it just seems like a super easy operations to allow the teacher to take more control of their own destiny, if you will. And in case one example, a teacher had worked a basketball game and it took 2 months to get paid, even though she was continually following up. So in that respect, that did happen, but again, an easy drop-down menu. should be able to take care of that pretty simply. I also spoke with a paraprofessional, and she noted that when they act as substitutes, there's an issue there as well. In this particular case, they're getting paid a stipend to work that substitute position, but I guess only if they're working 3 or more hours in the day. And what she was advising is that the principals are rotating them every 2 hours, so they're not having to pay that stipend. Furthermore, she has occasionally worked the ESE substitute program, and she hasn't received the additional paraprofessional pay for working ESE. So this is probably just a policy thing we need to look at to ensure that our teachers and paraprofessionals are getting paid accordingly. I would imagine most of them aren't necessarily aware of the pay differentials. So just something to think about for y'all. Thank you.
Madam Superintendent, members of the board, thank you very much for your time. Over the past 2 years, teachers have had to deal with many things. New standards, new programs, new initiatives, the lingering effects of the plague year, discipline in classrooms going to a level beyond, I think, any of our comprehension. We've also been treated with disrespect by the governors of the state and across the country. We've been referred to as indoctrinators, communists, Marxists, groomers, everything like that. What that has done is contributed to an unprecedented level of mental health challenges teachers are being faced. When we suffer from mental health challenges, the advice we're often given is take care of yourself. Take time for yourself. Never forget to put yourself first. And my question would be, when? When do we have time when we're trying to teach to do that? Now, like most teachers, when I realized I was having a challenge, I sought help. When you're a teacher and you're having difficulty in your classroom, you have peers, you have mentors, you have instructional coaches, you have your administration. But when you need mental health challenges, when you have something to deal with mental health, you call your EAP. And we're given 3 visits, 3 face-to-face sessions with a mental health counselor. And if you know the stress many of us are under, the challenges we are experiencing, 3 visits is nowhere near enough. By contrast, if this had happened in Orange County, I would have had 5 visits for not a dime out of my pocket. Visits 6 through 10 would be $10 out of my pocket. Visits 11 through 20 would be $20 out of my pocket. In Seminole County, after my first 3 visits, I would have to pay $105 out of my pocket every time I wanted to see a mental health professional under the district-provided health care until I reached my $1,750 deductible. So why is this crucial to me? On November 3rd of last year, I saw my mental health professional for one of my 3 visits, and we decided it was best for me to walk away from the teaching profession because I couldn't do it anymore. I wasn't in the best place for my students. I wasn't in the best place for my peers. I wasn't in the best place for my school. So on November 12th of last year, it was my last day in the classroom, and I haven't been back since. Great advice is given to us to take care of ourselves. Please stop putting our money where your mouth is and improve mental health care for teachers as part of our health insurance plan. Thank you.
Order, please.
I'm Nina Sandberg, and I represent the peasant citizens. The board has been trying to censor, limit, control, hide, conceal, and ignore the public comment rights of the peasants for at least a year. The peasants need to know exactly which board members have been involved in this extreme internal corruption. Those board members are not fit to serve on our school board and are not fit for employment by SCPS. SCPS does not belong to any member of this board. You are employees of the citizens of Seminole County. Your job duty is to listen to a full 3 minutes of public comment from each peasant who needs to explain a serious school problem to you. The entire purpose of the public board meetings is to allow the citizens to tell you about serious internal school problems so that you can fix those problems. If you cannot give a lousy 3 minutes of your attention to a peasant citizen who needs to talk to you, then you should not serve on any school board anywhere. It is also your job to fix the problems after they have been brought to your attention. You are supposed to be taking notes during public comment. You are supposed to be following up with citizens who tell you about the most serious internal problems the very next day. You are supposed to be fixing those problems. You're supposed to be showing genuine concern, and you're supposed to be behaving like you actually care, even if you do not. It is very clear that some board members do not care in the least, and they have let the public know this in no uncertain terms, trying to limit public comments to 2 minutes per citizen instead of 3 minutes, and to go against years of tradition and public comment practices in Seminole County. It is already very difficult to use only 380 words to explain any given problem to you. You are violating the rights of parents, students, and employees. I am representing all of them tonight. You must reverse this decision immediately, tonight. There are no voters in any political party who support you in this decision. You do not have the support of any Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, or Independents to do this. You need to reverse this decision tonight. The peasants get 3 minutes of public comment time and no less.
Michelle Manella, followed by Allison Holmes, followed by Cheryl Bryant.
Almost daily, frustrated parents of special needs students reach out to our organization. You are well aware of the large number of IEP children that you serve, and many of them need speech and language pathologists. You are aware of your moral and legal obligation to provide SLPs. If you don't significantly increase their pay, you will soon find yourselves without SLPs, as many of them have attested to tonight. Regarding the changes to your public comment policy, it's clear you don't want to hear from students, staff, and concerned taxpayers. I know it's inconvenient for you to hear criticism, and the low regard you have for us is evident. It's shameful, and it's my contention that you have misunderstood the requirements of being a school board member, which includes listening to concerns and acting on them. SCPS recent policy changes regarding first aid, I'd like to remind you there are parents who think you plan to stand by while a child chokes or refuse to hand out Band-Aids. How on earth do you think this is remotely acceptable? Regarding things like safe space stickers, why is this necessary? Isn't the entire campus a safe space? If not, why? The mere presence of signage like this implies that students have something to fear in other areas where such signs are absent. Every SCPS campus should be a safe, welcoming, politically neutral place where students can learn and grow. Improving pay for your SLPs, actually listening to your students and parents when they come to the podium, providing proper first aid to all students is in line with long-established district policy, and ensuring all areas of campus are considered safe spaces is essential.
Alison Holmes. I want to start off by saying my nonverbal son has been given a voice by SLPs, so to me, they're worth their weight in gold. I'm going to be talking about a group that you don't want identified, but to me, it's relevant to the board because they have stood up here and said they want to partner with the board. So I believe it's relevant. It's whether you do or not, I believe it's relevant. I'm not going to use the words, I'm going to use board-accepted words. In Seminole County, we have a group of select Republican activists trying to influence school board policy. And because these select Republican activists, because of them, we now have to opt in for our kids to get an ice pack or a Band-Aid. Now, I know their intention wasn't to make parents have to opt in for ice packs or Band-Aids, but When you've got a group of women who have zero experience and too much time on their hands, these are the unintended consequences. These select Republican activists also wanted to control how the district navigated through a deadly worldwide pandemic. Rest of the world relied on infectious disease experts, scientists, academics. But in Seminole County, a handful of homeschooling mums were ready to take the reins. The same homeschooling mums whose incompetent meddling means we now have to opt in for Band-Aids and ice packs. But sure, let's put them in charge of health and safety during a global pandemic. What could possibly go wrong? Real SCPS parents don't want the board partnering with select Republican activists, especially when these select Republican activists partner with the Proud Boys, a designated hate group. Real SCPS parents haven't shown up to board meetings frothing at the mouth about being depopulated by the government. Real SCPS parents don't tag our teachers on social media and call them groomers. And we don't demand signs are taken down in classrooms if they say this classroom is a diverse, inclusive, accepting, welcoming, safe space for everyone. These select Republican activists are out of step with the real SCPS parents. And real SCPS parents would like to see every board member defending SCPS staff instead of defending Moms for Liberty. Thank you.
Cheryl Bryant, followed by Valerie Wirtz, followed by Sandy Stenoff.
Hello, everyone. God bless you all. I'm Cheryl Bryant. I'm representing Moms for Liberty tonight. I'll be taking the 6 minutes, and I have to say, I love speech and language pathologists. I love them, love them, love them, and I think you need to support them. You need to give them what they need. These people turned my life around. My son was hardly verbal. He went from pointing and grunting to full sentences in 3 months with occupational therapy and therapy from SPL. So God bless you all. So they are truly a gift from God. We are asking again for clarification on the first aid consent forms generated by the board's medical services health coordinator. They have been glaringly inconsistent. There have been inconsistencies from the board's attorney and superintendent. We have been told the forms were prompted by the Parents' Rights in Education. This is false. We have been told it was standard to ask for this consent form before. Again, this is not true. We would like clarification on the purpose of asking for this consent form for basic first aid. There is no law, new or existing, that would prevent first aid. There is no law, new or existing, that would prevent first aid. Will children be neglected in the lopsided mischaracterization of the Parents' Rights in Education law? If they are bleeding, will they be left uncared for because of political shenanigans? Will ice be provided for a swollen, jammed finger? Does this make more work and stress for our already overworked and underpaid teachers? We cannot have a health care director and a superintendent creating policy. That is what you guys are for, especially when the policy is refusal of first aid. This is malevolent, it's petty, and it's politically motivated. Also, we would like you to provide the district with the data and supporting documents that is evidence-based data explaining the use of restorative justice practices. Restorative justice is used in prisons, and it's the methodology used at Parkland when the devastating shooting happened in 2018. Some believe that the Parkland tragedy would not have happened, would have been prevented, if not for restorative practices, so we would like that explained. We would also like clarification on public comment. Is it 3 minutes, 2 minutes? What's going on with that? When will we be able to speak? That is it. God bless you all. Pray for our students, pray for our teachers, and pray for our county. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Valerie Wertz, and I am a mom here in Seminole County. I was coming in to talk about something else, but something's on my heart. That's the fights, even the gun already this year that was found in a school, and the violence towards our SROs. What we are currently doing in prevention is not working. We're being reactive. We need to change this. We need systems in place. We need policies in place to be enforced that are in place, but we need to start dads on duty. We have to get dads to sign up as dividends, come into the school, and make sure that every student is greeted every morning with a swarm of dads. Dads are the head of families for a reason. They can restore our schools and support our SROs. So that initiative needs to start. Somebody in this community, a dad, can start this initiative to put dads on duty in our schools. It does not have to be running through the school system's paychecks. It needs to be volunteer. These are our students, and we cannot go through another year of kids with guns and violence and SROs not being safe. I also want to talk with regards to the inappropriate and unnecessary email that the district health coordinator set out on August 8th. We cannot have health directors and superintendents creating policy. That is why we vote for a school board. It is your job, especially when the policy is refusal of first aid, as highlighted on the email on August 8th. It is petty and it is harmful to our community. We are trying to establish a partnership here. Having a health coordinator highlight that they will not be providing first aid to our students is unacceptable. And it's quite frankly, it leaves a lot of alarm. Thank you.
Order.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Stenoff. I represent the Opt Out Florida Network. I would like to use my 6 minutes, but I probably won't use it all. I'm just going to read a quick little essay and hope that this helps you think about school climate for the district as we go through the year, at the beginning of the year. This is from Carrie Gabriel Costello, an associate professor of sociology at the University of Wisconsin. He wrote on June 11th of this year, "My grandmother Rachel was born in 1901 and immigrated to the U.S. as a tot. She was adjudged a rebellious delinquent here at the ripe age of 6. Why? Well, she started school and kept picking up her pencil in her left hand. Every time the teacher saw her do that, the teacher would hit her hand hard with a ruler and yell at her for being disobedient. And yet, she would do it again. She was judged wayward and ungovernable by her teacher, a child who would never amount to anything, another unruly, ignorant, immigrant Jew. Facing such stigma, eventually my grandmother trained herself not to use her naturally dominant left hand and to write with her right hand, but her introduction to schooling had been traumatic. This story helps explain why, at the time my grandmother started school, only about 3% of children were reported to be left-handed. As the social stigma associated with being left-handed came to be seen as unfair and unnecessary, that rate would rise. In 1920, 5% of American children were found to be left-handed. By 1930, it was 7%. In 1940, 10%. And by the early 1960s, the rate was a bit under 12%, at which point it stopped rising, and it's still a bit under 12% today. Today, there's a great deal of social commentary about the fact that the percentage of youth with gender-expansive identities, transgender, non-binary, is rising substantially. On the political right, a whole lot of people are screeching that this is due to their being groomed by adults and duped or seduced into having these unnatural identities. Even on the left, some are uneasy about the increase and consider it a strange fad. Both of those perspectives presume that there is something dubious about the rise of trans identification. In fact, more people, especially young ones, see clearly that there's nothing wrong with being a gender minority that accounts for the rise. If you see the social stigma and shame aimed at trans or non-binary people as unnecessary and unfair, you will accept trans identification with a smile or a shrug. And when people aren't being punished for their gender identity being atypical, they'll go ahead and express that, and the rates will rise again. There's nothing sinister about that. And yes, I use the word sinister to remind people that is simply the Latin word for left. Being prejudiced against left-handed people is a weird, ancient superstition in Western culture. It's a lot older than prejudice against gender-expansive identities. Don't panic when young people aren't right-handed. Don't panic when they aren't cisgender. They'll be fine if you let them be who they are, instead of torturing them for being atypical. It is important to clarify that left-handedness is neither a choice nor a trend. It is as inherent as eye color. This is how we must regard sex and gender in the classroom and in our schools. In the words of the brilliant Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better. Thank you.
Order, please.
That ends our public comment section. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation on the consent agenda?
Yes, I do, that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Have no separate consideration, no discipline hearings, no unfinished business, no new business. Superintendent, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. Chairman, for my report, I'd like to have Dr. Weissong step up, as well as Ms. Thompson, to provide the verbal information that is included in the written report. In regards to our upcoming adoption, and then also our assessment information.
Good evening, Superintendent, Chair Pennick, board members. On behalf of Ms. Beeman, I'm going to provide a couple of instructional updates, and as we've shared in prior presentations, with all of the instructional changes that are happening this year, we're going to occasionally provide updates on progress on different initiatives and projects that are forthcoming. So this probably won't be the last one of these this school year. First, we're going to talk about the textbook adoption process that will be taking place this school year, and then I'm going to turn the presentation over to Mrs. Thompson, and she's going to give you an update on progress monitoring and assessments for this school year. With regards to textbook adoption, there is an information item in print on tonight's agenda. But again, in the interest of transparency, because we know that this will be a high-interest community topic, we do want to work you through what's in place and what is planned. Last year, in 21-22, we set a record pace for adoptions covering 3 different disciplines: English language arts, world languages in the fall, and then mathematics in the spring. And I think the team that works on this was hoping to take a breath, and I informed that was not the plan. So we are ready to go again with some additional adoption work. And again, this will be the same process that we have always used with a focus on transparency and a comprehensive and rigorous review before we bring recommendations to you for adoption. So just a reminder, board members, you have previously approved the instructional materials adoption plan for this school year. That was done by action item at the June 21st meeting. And so we will use the 22-23 school year to adopt materials for first use in 23-24. This process does follow Florida law, including the updates that took effect on July 1. And of course, the process is also spelled out in School Board Policy 2520, which is currently under revision, but we'll be using those proposed changes in this process. All of the information about textbook adoption is posted on our website on the same URL that we have used for several years, and so members of the public are welcome to visit that site to learn more about the process. Again, the focus this year will be on K through 12 social studies, and we provide full, transparent access to all of the materials that are under review. First, our Department of Teaching and Learning will host a public preview event that is scheduled for Thursday, August 25th in this building from 5 to 7 p.m. The publishers of the materials that are under consideration will be present. They will have their print materials with them, and they'll be available to answer questions. And again, that event is open to the public, both the general public and to our teachers as well. In addition to the public preview event, the materials that are under consideration will be available electronically via links from that district adoptions page, and those will be posted as the publishers provide that electronic access to us. So if you go to that page right now, those links aren't live yet, but over the next few days as publishers send that information, we'll begin posting it. In terms of the courses that will be adopted, and again, this was part of the plan that you approved in June, we'll be doing a full series adoption for social studies K through 5, so that'll be a single publisher covering those 6 grade levels. And then world history, 6th grade, civics, 7th grade, U.S. history, 8th grade. Then at the high school level, we'll include the most commonly taken courses, including requirements for graduation. So world history, U.S. history, economics, which is a semester course but still gets a full textbook, U.S. government, also a semester course, getting its own book, African American history, which of course is an elective, and then personal financial literacy, which becomes a graduation requirement for all high school students beginning in the 23-24 school year. So there's still some decisions to be made about personal financial literacy and course sequencing, but those conversations are underway. Each of these, each bullet point, each course or course set will have its own adoption committee that will consider materials. In terms of the adoption committee process, the committee is first and foremost comprised of our classroom teachers. Those teachers are nominated by their principals, and then I, as deputy superintendent, I review the slate of teachers and approve those. We also seek at least one school administrator per committee so that we have that vantage point as well. Our district curriculum specialists will serve as committee members, and then we have always solicited our PTSA executive board for parent representatives on adoption committees because of the new state law that requires parents, plural, to serve on each adoption committee. We have opened that process up and are taking volunteer applications via the SCPS website, and we will leave that up and are assigning parents to committees on a first-come, first-served basis. And I'll just note that that is an important voice on the committee, but also a tremendous responsibility and also a tremendous time commitment, because each of these committees meets for 3 full days during business hours. So we know that the parents who are volunteering their time to serve on those committees are making a tremendous commitment to our students. All of the adoption committees are publicly noticed, they're open to the public, and they follow Government in the Sunshine protocols. Each committee implements, again, a process that we have used over the years and carefully refined. Dr. Scanlon, our instructional projects coordinator, will personally facilitate all of that work. Each committee only considers materials that are on the Florida DOE Social Studies draft short bid report. That list of materials is posted on the FLDOE site. This process really begins and ends with Florida DOE because while our committees are meeting, they're going through their review process, and then ultimately by board policy, we only purchase from the final list published by DOE. So what each committee will be doing when they meet is they'll be going through their process, and then they'll be submitting a ranked recommendation. So they'll give us a first choice, a second choice, a third choice if appropriate. We will bring action items to the board for approval that include the ranked recommendation list, and we'll go through all of the procedures required in statute. And then at whatever point the state releases its final adoption list, we'll purchase the highest ranked materials that are approved by the board that are also on the state's adoption list. So again, that process ensures that we get our work done in a timely fashion and that we're able to order so that materials arrive on time, but also that we're ready to go as soon as the state publishes their final adoption list. The committee meeting schedule has been established and is posted currently on our website, and of course this is subject to change. However, we will publicly notice through the school board clerk all of these meetings at least 7 days in advance, and again, all of these meetings are open to the public. They're all held in this building at the times that are posted. So that process will get underway starting the week of August 29. It is an aggressive schedule that takes us through a little more than the first half of the first semester, and that's because we have some other state requirements that are due in second semester, and I need the Department of Teaching and Learning leadership team focused on that work along with leading into new assessments in the spring. So we're going to try to get this done in the fall, and then we'll wait on the completion of the state adoption process, whatever timeline they might use. Again, we'll continue to keep you posted on this process, but again, very important that all of this information is posted online on our website, and we'll continue to provide you with updates as we receive them.
Dr. Weissong, I have a question. On the committee, do we have the opportunity to have student participation in the textbook or former student? For example, we had 2 public speakers tonight speak on this topic. Is that
We have not in the past, only because, again, the committees are meeting during the school day, and certainly we want to prioritize students being in class. It is something that certainly we can discuss.
it would be, even recently graduated students would give us a certain perspective of what they've experienced and what they would like to see, and I think it would be a good voice to lend. Thank you.
Okay, I'll turn the presentation over now to Mrs. Thompson, and she's going to give you an update on progress monitoring assessments for this school year. Thank you.
Good evening. As we have discussed in some of our other meetings, the Florida Department of Education is continuing to update and provide information on the upcoming FAST assessments. This past week, we have had the opportunity to send out some communications to our parents about what progress monitoring will look like in Seminole County Public Schools this year. And that's what I want to kind of have kind of talk about this evening. So first and foremost, progress monitoring is a system of actions that takes place in the classroom that starts with instruction, goes with assessment, reflecting on that assessment, and then taking action to support and accelerate students. For 22-23, we'll be using, as we always have, multiple methods to evaluate how well students are progressing through that material. So in our system, we'll be primarily focusing on 3 data-driven types of progress monitoring. One of those, of course, will be the state FAST assessments, which are given at the beginning, middle, and end of the year to track student progress towards the acquisition of best standards. To help support those assessments, we will also be utilizing iReady and STAR. Those assessments give us specific information on skills that and provide lessons to help support student learning. And last but certainly what is the most important aspect to our students are the daily classroom activities that they are involved in at the direction and the discretion of their teachers. So to get a little bit more in depth about some of this information, so for the fast progress monitoring is the new state assessment. It is a tool that's designed to track the students' progress towards meeting end of year goals. So it's for informational purposes only this year for the first 2, and our students who are enrolled in VPK through grade 10 in ELA and K through 8 in math will be participating in these assessments. For iReady, our students in grades K through 5 will continue to participate in iReady and utilize the tools and the lessons that are designed to support student growth and learning, and that remains a familiar progress monitoring point for our parents, our teachers, and our families. The STAR Renaissance assessments that were given last year to all of our secondary ELA and mathematics students have been reduced in scope and will be limited to students in algebra and geometry only. And those students are going to be monitored through STAR because the algebra and geometry students are not part of the FAST progress monitoring system. Those students are still required to take end of course exams, so we needed a different mechanism to monitor their progress. So we'll use STAR at the beginning and the middle of the year to monitor their readiness for end of course exams. And our students are fully engaged in best-oriented lessons in their classrooms and their new instructional materials and using our curriculum frameworks. And so that daily feedback our teachers are getting is extremely important in determining that student progress. Additionally, some of our students will be participating in some benchmark assessments that are aligned to that, instruction that gives that real standards-based information on what students have just learned and experienced. So some communication updates. We provided some communication updates this past week to our teachers and administrators. We did customized slide decks that were sent to principals that they can use with teachers so that teachers have a better understanding of the progress monitoring that we just discussed and also about how the FAST assessments will work. They were customized by the grade levels that you see on the screen. We also provided an updated slide deck for administrators to share with their leadership teams, including their instructional coaches, that has some more information in it about the students' experiences during those the upcoming testing. And we spent some time with our school-based test coordinators last week, providing training sessions for them on kind of the nuts and bolts and logistics of getting our students scheduled for a successful experience. Additionally, last Friday, our parents received a communication on the system, on the SCPS system of progress monitors that talked with them about the classroom assessments, FAST, and then iReady or STAR. The communication I just referenced was one of the updates that we did for parents and families. Within that communication, there is a link to a Department of Education site on the FAST assessments that gives parents a deeper insight into the assessments, as well as access to some practice tests that parents may be interested in. Within this next week, parents will be getting communication from their schools regarding upcoming FAST assessments for the beginning of the year. Those assessments will include information on when their student is expected to take the FAST assessment. It will also include a link to information on adaptive testing so that parents have an understanding that when students take these assessments, the assessment will adjust to more complex questions as the student answers questions correctly, or may adjust down to less complex as the student gets questions incorrect, but it will stay within the bounds of the grade level. So that links to that information will be in the letter that they receive. We also have some information on that letter about permitted activities following test submission. Our students will be allowed to read at their desk once they submit the test until this test session is complete. That assessment information will go out 10 days prior to the student's communication, and we'll be updating the assessment accountability portion of the district website to have the latest and most up-to-date information from the Florida Department of Education for parents as well. So our protocols for testing, the Florida Department of Education released some more details on what this assessment will look like for students. So there will be the requirement to use a script. So our test administrators will have a consistent set of language to give to students regarding the assessment, so that will be consistently presented to our students. Prior to testing in the testing rooms per the department, any materials that are on the wall that might give a student an advantage to responding to a question must be covered. That's standard practice for state assessments. For district discretion, we had district discretion on the reading material, and we did we want our students to be able to read following, because we're not real sure how long it will take them. We're going to follow the directions of the department, but our students may finish sooner, so we didn't want them just to sit there. We wanted them to be able to engage in some reading. Our students will remain in their scheduled testing session until the session concludes. If we have students, regardless of whether they have an IEP or not, all students will have time extended beyond the scheduled session of up to 30 minutes to complete that. Students that have an accommodation for extended time will have additional time beyond that per their IEP or 504 plan to complete these assessments. So some updates. So for our VPK to grade 2 students, those students, this chart kind of explains which assessments these students will be taking. So our VPK students will be taking the early literacy assessment in the Star Renaissance system. Our grade 1 students will be taking, our kindergarten students will also be taking the STAR literacy assessment. If we have kindergartners who on the first assessment score an 852 or higher, those students can be moved to the STAR reading assessment for the second progress monitor. That 852 is a sign that that student has mastered early literacy, and we would want that student to have a more, an assessment that is up to date with their reading skills. So we have that option for our kindergarten students. For first grade, our students will start with early literacy with the idea that they would move to the STAR reading assessment by the third progress monitor. Students that are scoring again in that higher range can move to STAR reading for the second progress monitor. So there's some customization that's possible based upon where that student is on their progress through reading. All of our second grade students will be taking the STAR reading assessment, and students in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade will be participating in STAR math. The STAR assessment itself is time limited. It's different from iReady in that in iReady there is no time limitation on items or on the assessment. The students have until they complete this, they have as much time as they need to complete it. What happens with these items is the items themselves are timed, so you see on the screen for the different types of assessments what that item time is. We do have the option of students that have accommodations. We can grant extended time for these students, so then that's what the extended time is, but that's based upon their IEP or 504. So in early literacy, that would extend the 90-second per item limit item timeline to 270 seconds per item. And that action is taken by our teachers and our school-based test coordinators. The department did release some testing links, so that's what you see on the screen. There's 36 to 40 items on the assessment with 5 items extra. On the third progress monitor, you can see the genre balance between fiction and nonfiction. And administration time is up to 90 minutes for Progress Monitor 1 and 2 with a recommended time of 60. So we'll be scheduling our students for a 60-minute session. At the end of 60 minutes, students who are done and who have finished the assessment will be released back to instruction. Students who are not done will have an additional 30 minutes, and students with an accommodation will have beyond that, and schools will have those students scheduled appropriately for that. These are the different types of reading item types that our students will see on the electronic assessments. Some of these items will have a combination of multiple item types and multiple part questions. So our students will be interacting with these particular item types. So for mathematics, the test lengths are 35 to 36 to 40 questions. Those items for remember algebra and geometry are on here, but that's for the EOC. Those students won't participate early in the year. Test timing for grades 3 through 5 is up to 80 minutes for progress monitors 1 and 2, and up to 100 minutes for progress monitors 1 and 2 for grades 6 through 8. And then there's some information about calculators. Calculators are electronic only unless the student has an accommodation approved on their IEP or 504 for a handheld calculator. Same thing for here. We'll have the students in a recommended session. They'll have time beyond that if needed. And these are our best item types for the electronic items, the enhanced items. And again, multiple types may be combined for items that have multiple parts to that assessment item. And some resources updates. The Florida Department of Education has launched the new Florida Assessments to Student Thinking portal. This takes the place of the old FSA portal. This link is being included on all of our parent communications, and it gives a variety of information and resources to parents, teachers, and staff that are available, and it's being updated almost weekly by the department as they're developing new materials for us. Here's some examples of the resources that are available in that portal, and on the screen is a picture of a one-page guide for parents and teachers on the FAST assessments, and I'll call your attention that it does have a link to sample student test materials for families that are interested in that information. And that is the latest and greatest on progress monitoring as we know right now today.
Any questions? Thank you, Dr. Wysong. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
That all for your report?
Yes, the remainder is read only.
Okay. Board committee updates, Member Almond.
Thank you. We kicked off the school year with the ringing of the historic bell at Oviedo High School. It was a grand celebration as they kick off the year to celebrate their 100-year anniversary. I'm sure there will be more information coming out about how they're going to celebrate as the year progresses. Casbury Chamber of Commerce featured our Take Stock program, and I know that a number of chamber members are intending to sign up to mentor after that, so that was really a great presentation. Thank you to Michael Lawrence, our Chief Information Officer, for his years of service with this district. We will miss him and wish him well. And thank you to the folks in transportation and also many administrators and clerical staff who all stepped up to make phone calls. I know the one day they had over 700 calls and emails that they responded to in an effort to assist our families as efficiently as they could. That's my report.
All right, Member Calderon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last night was our regularly scheduled Orlando Science Center board meeting, and the topics of excitement were the annual Otronicon, which they've held for many, many years, always on a school day off during President's Day. They are revisioning that event and renaming it to Spark to involve all STEM activities, not just the computerized. So they're moving, as we move our curriculum, their events are moving as well. We're ahead of budget. There's a lot of new exciting things happening, and our life exhibit is currently under construction and will be open to all of our students by the end of next year. Even before we rang the bell on the first day of school, I just wanted to publicly thank our generous community with so many back-to-school events, handing out school supplies, haircuts, backpacks, and especially our partnership with Seminole County government. They opened up all their fire departments and libraries for school drop-offs and actually delivered it in a very grand way on a fire truck to our Tools for Seminole Schools. I know we were all there in attendance to say thank you, and Commissioner Lockhart represented their commission as well. The creativity of our PTAs and community are unbelievable. Many of our schools, the night before, I know Idlewild Elementary, they had a Chalk the Walk event where parents just came and in chalk put little love letters to students and teachers. And so I know we can never say thank you enough, but thank you, thank you, thank you to our teachers, our staff, our administrators, And I know I saw our transportation people back there representing, but for them to voluntarily come in and man the phones until after midnight and then be there with a smile on their face at 4 a.m. waving the signs, it was touching for me to see, and I can't say thank you enough. And I'll conclude with one final thank you to one of our assistant principals, Mr. Claudemir Pierre, who saved a student's life this week. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, to provide safe environments for all of our students. We care deeply for all of our students and our staff, and just wanted to publicly thank him for that.
Member Kraus?
Thank you. So my back to school day, I promise you I didn't hurt Dr. Sean Gard-Harold. It was not me. But it was the same morning as the children's cabinet. So I don't know, Ms. Cole-Palmer, were you able to attend the children's cabinet? I don't have an update.
Yes, I actually was able to participate, and there was a discussion of the event, the resource event that was hosted on August 6th for families in the community, including resources, whether it's mental health resources, just being able to get supplies for the family. So that was one of the main things that was discussed, and how we'll want to move that forward in the future, looking at an April date to try and make sure that we're getting ahead of the curve and moving on to our next meeting.
And board, as soon as I get the minutes, I'll forward on to you with a listing of the resources. Secondarily, Ms. M. Mills and her team are working diligently to get our dividends off the ground. We want our parents to be involved and back on campuses. You can register to be a dividend online, and I urge all of you to do that. You are just such a tremendous resource for us, and it's a chance to see all the great things going on in our school. And finally, I'm sure we all have been inundated with questions regarding the updated policy on public communication or public participation. And I would like the community to know, I'm going to ask Ms. Cole-Palmer, but I want the community to know the intent was to streamline our meeting portion. It still allows you to participate for 3 minutes on agenda items. And it also gives you, after the vote, it gives you another opportunity to have 2 minutes for non-agenda items. So essentially, you could have 5 minutes speaking in the meeting. And I was going to ask Ms. Cole-Palmer if you would just clarify for some of our members.
Well, you've certainly captured the essence of the proposed changes that are currently underway. The intent, of course, is to make sure that we are addressing the business at hand, being able to move forward. The time period for that has not changed. That may remain standard. The desire was to then open up additional time for non-agenda items if anyone had those comments. So I think the policy changes that are proposed are pretty clearly outlined. I think you did capture it as they're meant to be.
Okay. And I would just add that we can review policies periodically through the year. So if we find it's not working successfully, we can amend or adjust. And I just wanted to offer that to everybody. Thank you.
Well, and I think in addition to that, we are all accessible through email, through phone, through community events. So it's not just coming to a meeting to express your concern. You can also reach out to us. You guys have taken much of what I was going to talk about, but in addition to applying to be a dividend, I just want to share that this is the 50th year of the dividend program. And that is a huge milestone. It's a great testament, again, to the community partnerships and something that's such a valuable resource to our schools. First day of school was so awesome to be back in the school, seeing the kids, seeing the teachers. I have confidence this is going to be as normal a year as it can be, and I'm very excited for that. You talked about, our community partners with providing supplies for our students. We have 1,900 homeless students in our school district right now, so the need is great. Our Tools for Seminole Schools will take supply donations. I believe the fire stations and libraries will still take supplies, so if you would like to support in any way any of these students, we would be happy for your support. And we have our audit committee on Friday to discuss what this next year looks like for internal audit, so I will have an update on that after that meeting. And that concludes my information, and so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.